Can you feel the roar building beneath Ford Field? Has Detroit's destiny sparked in the silence of this offseason? Could this be the moment that finally shatters our curse of expectation and turns this franchise not just into a contender, but into a force no one dares to underestimate? I hope you're sitting down, Lions faithful, because this roller coaster of good and bad news hitting our defensive front has the power to redefine everything we thought we knew about our team's future. And it's tangled up in names that have already started to carve their legacies in Honolulu blue and silver. So smash that like button and drop your belief in the comments if you're ready for the Lions to flip the script from underdog to undeniable. Whispers have been stirring in the shadows of Detroit's war room, rumors that send shockwaves through the locker room and pulse through our hearts like the fight song echoing across the city on game day. There's chatter about seismic shifts on defense, about one player whose massive pay raise is getting slammed as a colossal overpayment by analysts who just don't get the fight in him, and another whose quiet rise in the secondary might just be the secret weapon we didn't see coming. These insider insights paint a story fraught with tension, a story that, if true, could lead the entire NFC North scrambling to recalibrate, and yet it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths and thrilling possibilities about our roster. Let me lift the veil. It's Alim McNeill and Reed who stand at the crossroads of Detroit's defensive destiny in 2024. Yes, the same Alim McNeill, a defensive tackle that some so-called experts have labeled the most overpaid player at his position in the league. A verdict so reckless and dismissive, it's almost insulting to every broken bone, every rehab session, every ounce of grit he's poured into coming back stronger from that knee injury. And then Reed, the cornerback whose youth, tenacity, and man-to-man coverage skills have drawn praise straight from Dan Campbell himself, a player quietly setting the tone for what could become the most ferocious secondary in Lions history. On one side, a fiery debate rages about money and value. McNeill's $97 million, contract aimed at marking him as a top 5 defensive tackle. Yet critics are quick to dump him in the overpaid pile because he isn't Chris Jones. But hear me as a diehard Lions fan who knows the grind and the pain of this game inside and out. McNeill is every bit as vital as those guys. And when you look closely at his potential, his age, and the way he anchors this defense, you see a cornerstone, not a bust. The critics forget, injuries are part of the brutal reality players endure. To judge a man's worth solely on an injury-shortened stretch is to misunderstand what it means to fight for Detroit. And on the other side, Reed's rise could be the shot of adrenaline our secondary has been gasping for after years of near misses and nervous late-game fades. Dan Campbell's words resonate because they come from a coach who demands excellence in the grit and grind of man-to-man coverage. Reed's ability to lock down his side of the field, to challenge receivers at the catch point, and to elevate teammates like Terry Arnold promises something electrifying, a secondary that doesn't just react but dominates. Remember those gut-wrenching playoff near misses, those agonizing rebuild years when hope flickered and faded? The defense that nearly roared in '57, or the teams that stumbled just short of glory in recent decades? This pairing of McNeill's power in the trenches and Reed's tenacity in the back end could be the heart and soul of a Lions defense that ends decades of heartbreak and becomes the cornerstone of a playoff push no one saw coming. But what if the critics are right? What if McNeill's injury lingers longer than we hope, or his contract becomes a millstone around the Lions' necks? What if the pressure on Reed to be the lockdown corner crushes his confidence, or shifts in coaching strategies upset the delicate balance Campbell is crafting? Could this gamble tear at the locker room chemistry or spark the fiercest playoff run since the glory days of Barry Sanders? The stakes have never been higher, and the margin between triumph and disappointment razor thin. And if this domino falls, if McNeill returns to full form and Reed's star continues its brilliant ascent, it might just unleash the wildest Lions. Off-season in history, a chapter that Detroit fans will tell their grandkids about the moment the tide turned forever. So buckle in and stay tuned, Because this roller coaster ride is just getting started, and the roar of the Lions is poised to shake the foundations of the NFL. Light the torches, Lions Nation, because what's coming next isn't just a season. It's a revolution waiting to ignite inside Ford Field, a seismic shift that could finally elevate us from cursed underdogs to NFL kings. And everyone from the front office to the street corner knows it's written in the stars, ready to shake the very foundation of Detroit's football legacy. Coaches whisper about locker room truth, of the fire it believes when others doubt, about the silent, unyielding spirit of players who have bled, broken, and risen again, feeding off centuries of heartbreak, from the gloom of 0-16, to the daring playoff run last year that had us all holding our breath, daring to imagine a brighter future. And now suddenly, there's a storm brewing, an inward hurricane where politics, player ambition, and raw emotion collide, all centered around McNeel and Reed, the very heart of what could be Detroit's salvation or its sinking ship if whispers turn to screams. The NFC North trembles because any misstep from the Lions could send Packers, Bears, and Vikings scrambling for answers. But their fears aren't just about myths or luck. They're about a Detroit comeback that was written in sweat and sacrifice long before modern contracts or media buzz. Don't forget our past, Dan Orlovsky's miraculous safety, Calvin Johnson's furious retirement, Barry Sanders walking away in tears after shattering records, Jim Caldwell's firing in the dead of night, playoff heartbreaks carved into our collective soul, each scar a reminder that we're no strangers to losing. But perhaps, just perhaps, our time has arrived. Remember what's at stake, the ghosts of playoff collapses that haunted us, the near misses that left us dreaming but never quite grasping, year after year. This isn't just about McNeill's hefty pay that critics dismiss as overblown, no. It's about the grit, the rebirth of a player who's battled through injuries, who's refused to let his legacy be defined by setbacks, a man who's got the strength in his bones to anchor a line that can smother opponents like Detroit Winters once smothered hope. And Reed Young, relentless, driven by a fire that Dan Campbell himself recognizes, who's creating a secondary that might just make opposing quarterbacks feel hunted like prey in our backyard, turning Ford Field into a fortress that whispers terror into the hearts of any NFC contender. So picture this, a defense that looks like a steel trap, an offense finally cinched, and a city on fire with anticipation. This isn't just wishful thinking. This is the moment we've been waiting decades for, when Detroit finally turns its pain into power, and the ghosts of the past fade into history as we march toward playoff domination. Think about it. The weight of history on our shoulders buries legendary runs, Calvin's impossible catches, Stafford's grit, Caldwell's coaching, all culminating in this singular, almost unthinkable opportunity. What if, just what, if McNeel balloons into a dominant force instead of a scapegoat, and Reed's tenacity becomes a blueprint for a secondary that will terrify quarterbacks into early graves? What if this season rewrites our entire story, smashing the curse and igniting a war cry that echoes across the league? Can you feel it in your bones, the fire rising, the roar preparing to erupt? Or are we fooling ourselves again, teetering on the edge of glory, only to fall back into the familiar abyss that's haunted Lions fans for generations? Because the moment of truth is coming, and the question remains, will Detroit's redemption come with thunderous applause, or will the scars of the past drown out our howls?